Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The Sensex and the Nifty close with minor cuts, reversing yesterday's gains. Midcaps and bank stocks see a sharper sell-off. Indian pharma stocks decline after President Trump signs an executive order to boost domestic production by fast-tracking approvals, tightens the rules for foreign producers, including an increase in fee and more frequent inspections. India proposes zero tariffs on steel, pharma and auto components on a reciprocal basis as trade negotiations with the U.S. continue. Bloomberg reports India offered zero duty up to a certain quantity of imports. The U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessant says China tariffs are not sustainable, hints at substantial progress in the coming weeks, also says he's highly confident of clinching more deals with other trading partners. Lenders to bankrupt Bhushan Steel are likely to file a review petition after the Supreme Court scrapped JSW Steel's acquisition and ordered liquidation. The Union Banking Secretary Nagaraju says the government will finalize a decision soon. Nationwide civil defense security drill tomorrow. Such an exercise was last carried out before the Indo-Pak War of 1971. The United Nations Security Council grills Pakistan at a closed-door meeting. Members expressed concern that Pakistan's missile tests and nuclear rhetoric were escalatory, advised them to sort issues out with India bilaterally. Asset declaration of sitting Supreme Court judges made public for the first time. 21 of the 33 sitting judges, including the Chief Justice Khanna and CJI designate Gavai, have declared their assets. Advocate turned Judge Justice Vishwanathan, with investments worth over 120 crores, is the richest. The Apex Court also publishes the entire process of appointments to the High Courts and the Supreme Court on its website. Union Bank of India faces the heat for spending 7 crore rupees to buy a book authored by KV Subramanian, the former executive director at the IMF. The government terminated Subramanian's services at the IMF 6 months ahead of his schedule. Was supposed to end. All India Bank employees called for a probe into Union Bank, citing wasteful expenditure. The government issues fresh stringent guidelines for satellite internet players like Elon Musk Starlink to get a license in India, want essential functions to be located within India, citing tensions with Pakistan. The Minister of State for Communications says satellite players will have a minuscule role compared to traditional systems. Well, let's start with the market action for the day. The Sensex and the Nifty closing with marginal losses, reversing gains that we saw yesterday. Midcaps and bank stocks, though, did see sharper cuts today. The Nifty Bank Index was down 1%, a 640-point cut there, and the Midcap Index down over 1,000 points, so a 2% cut there on the Midcaps. Sensex closing 150 points low, and the Nifty closing flat as well. So the pain really being seen today in the bank stocks and the Midcaps. In the commodity markets, oil prices rebounded after plunging to 4-year lows in the previous session. This, as technical factors and bargain hunting spurred a recovery. Now, the earlier decline followed an OPEC Plus decision to accelerate output increases, heightening concerns over a potential supply glut amidst weakening demand due to U.S. tariffs. That has been impacting the crude oil markets. Meanwhile, gold prices surging to a 2-week high. This was driven by safe haven demand amidst Trump's tariffs and the uncertainty around Fed's upcoming meeting. Now, President Trump has signed an executive order to boost pharma manufacturing in the United States by reducing regulatory barriers. This announcement comes as a bitter pill for stocks of Indian pharma companies. On an average, top pharma companies export 40 to 50% of their medicines to the U.S. Now, speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, Trump said that he would make announcements in the coming weeks on the cost of drugs as well as on tariffs on pharmaceuticals. Take a look.
That's what it's all about, right? Very important. We're going to have a big announcement next week on some of this kind of thing, but more related to costs, the costs of medicines and drugs, because we're being ripped off, as you know, very badly, being ripped off compared to the rest of the world.
President, on the pharmaceutical side, have you made any determination on kind of what those tariff rates may look like and the timing of those?
I have. I'll announce it over the next 2 weeks.
Indian generic pharma companies are in the crosshairs as US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order to boost domestic drug manufacturing. The order directs the US FDA to fast-track approvals for US-based manufacturing facilities, ramp up inspections of overseas plants, and increase inspection fees for foreign drug makers. It also mandates the public disclosure of manufacturing sources for APIs and names facilities that fail to comply with the US standards. The Trump administration has called the 5 to 10 year timeline to build new US pharma manufacturing capacity unacceptable, citing national security risks from dependence on foreign supply chains. While not explicitly a disincentive to overseas manufacturing, analysts say the move is a clear attempt to accelerate US-based approvals. The larger picture is to aim to shift the balance of global pharma production. Multinational giants like J&J, Roche, Eli Lilly and Novartis have already pledged significant investments in the US manufacturing as well. The bigger threat looms in Trump's warning that pharma tariffs could be announced in the next 2 weeks. This comes even as the US government nears the conclusion of a Section 232 investigation examining the national security implications of importing drugs and APIs. Analysts believe companies like Aurobindo, Cipla, Lupin and Glenmark may be better positioned given their existing US facilities, but one really needs to see the cost in terms of manufacturing eventually as well. Those with a stronger branded portfolio, for example, Ajanta Pharma, Torrent, Alchem, could also weather the shift, according to analysts. However, uncertainty around tariffs is expected to keep valuations under pressure, at least in the near term.
All right, Ektan, we haven't heard the last from President Trump on the issue of pharma tariffs. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessant has said that many trading partners have approached the U.S. with very good trade deals, and some could be done as early as this week. Speaking to CNBC on the sidelines of the Milken conference, Bessant reiterated that China tariffs are not sustainable, but also clarified that both sides have not been talking yet. Take a look.
I think we're very close to some deals. As President Trump said last night on Air Force One, maybe as early as this week. So when you think about uncertainty, uncertainty, a lot of it is generated by, I have asymmetric knowledge, so I'm not uncertain because I think it's going well. Other people don't know what I know. So
well, you have to share that with us then.
Well, I can say that I am highly confident that we have 18 important trading partners. We'll put China to the side. The 17 other partners, many of them have approached us with the very good trade proposals.
Well, that is the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessant. But speaking of uncertainty, auto major Ford, which did beat Wall Street expectations in Q1, has suspended its guidance for 2025 amidst a possible $2.5 billion impact on account of President Trump's tariffs. Ford cited that near-term risk in the supply chain was also one of the reasons for pulling its guidance. The automaker expects to offset $1 billion of those costs via remediation actions. Now, as India and the U.S. negotiate a bilateral trade agreement, India has reportedly offered zero tariffs on auto parts, steel and pharmaceuticals. According to a Bloomberg report, India proposed this on a reciprocal basis, but for a specific import quantity. Now, import of goods beyond the specified threshold, which is, of course, finally agreed on, could attract the regular level of duties. Of course, this is source-based information. The Indian government has issued fresh stringent guidelines for satellite internet players like Elon Musk's Starlink to get a license. The telecom department issued new security parameters mandating essential functions to be located within India, citing tensions with Pakistan. These include the ability to intercept communications and monitor user activity. The Minister of State for Communications, Chandrasekhar Premasani, says satellite players will have a minuscule role compared to traditional systems. Remember, Reliance Jio and Bharti Airtel recently announced tie-ups with Starlink to bring its services to India, subject to government approval.
Starlink, all these international ones, have a very minuscule role in connectivity compared to what the traditional systems that we have. As I said, around the world, Starlink only has less than 50 lakh connections. Okay, and it is mainly, the speed is much lower. Third, it's quite expensive, both for installation as well as monthly payment. This is mainly for maritime, people who are really remote, where traditional networks cannot reach. So I would not give that much importance to those things at this time.
Well, that's the Minister of State for Communications. Now, lenders to bankrupt Bhushan Steel are likely to file a review petition after the Supreme Court scrapped JSW Steel's acquisition and ordered the liquidation of the company. Banking Secretary Nagaraju has said that the government will finalize the decision soon. Sapna standing by with details. Sapna, take us through what is being assessed at this point in time in terms of the impact and the possible way forward that the government could take.
Well, we are given to understand from sources that most likely Punjab National Bank and State Bank of India are going to file a review petition in the Supreme Court on the JSW order. Having said that, probably there's a consensus among lenders to follow this route in the coming days. Of course, earlier on, the DFS Secretary himself, Mr. Nagaraju, was very clear that the matter has been discussed with the lenders. The government has studied the judgment and a position has been taken after consulting their advocates. And probably in the coming days, a plan will be finalized soon, or as to how they plan to approach the judgment and what the legal options are. That's the position as of now. Most likely this week is going to be devoted in terms of understanding the pros and cons, and maybe from the next week onwards or the coming week onwards, some action is likely that can unfold. But having said that, down the line, it may also be possible that, a larger policy review may be required in terms of the NCLT's efficacy, the questions raised by the Supreme Court order, what happens to the IBC process, what happens to the timelines, all of that. But maybe for that, we'll have to wait a bit more. Down the line, that could be possible as a proper serious 360-degree policy review on the IBC and the NCLT and the cases. But as of now, it's the most likely, it's the review petition route for the banks.
Discussions are going on since the time the order came out, and the plan is yet to be finalized, and all the options are being discussed, and those options are on the table. Maybe in a couple of days the action plan will be finalized. But having said that, from IOB side, what I have to say is that the 760 crores we did get. And in the worst case scenario, even if we are supposed to refund it, I have to say that we are having sufficient cushion in the balance sheet, and this can be handled it very efficiently without creating any adverse impact on the balance sheet.
Well, that's the latest there in the JSW matter. A review petition is likely to be moved. Now, a nationwide drill exercise will be conducted tomorrow to strengthen civil defense preparedness. Now, the drills will be conducted in 244 districts across states and union territories. And this comes at a time when tensions between India and Pakistan have been rising after the terror attack in Pahalgam. These are the first such drills to be carried out in over 50 years. Such an exercise was last carried out before the Indo-Pak War of 1971. The government's order to states makes no explicit reference to tensions with Pakistan. The primary object of such exercises are to strengthen defense preparedness among civilians. My colleague Arunima joins us from New Delhi. Arunima, take us through what we can expect through this drill tomorrow.
There are four main points on which the focus is currently in this mock drill. Number one, the air siren. If the Indian Air Force identifies that there is a threat from the air to any district, then the air siren will be sounded off, and the civil defense volunteers will then ensure that the civilians take cover. Second will be blackout siren. Blackout siren would mean power cut. So if you are in a forward area and your civil defense volunteers have asked you to prepare for a blackout siren, prepare to have candles or matchsticks or torch with enough battery power around you so that you can navigate this phase when blackout is announced. Third thing is, again, if you are in a forward area, you might have to prepare an emergency kit because possibility of evacuation to a community bunker might arise. So there are a number of forward areas. For example, in Rajasthan, Jaisalmer, Barmer. In Punjab, there's Amritsar. In Jammu and Kashmir, there's Uri, Arnia. In Gujarat also, there are forward areas. In Kutch, if you are in any of these areas, prepare an emergency kit. If you have a child or a baby, have dry baby food, a sanitary kit for women, essential medicines, etc., and some cash to be carried immediately when you are being evacuated. Fourth, if you are living near a vital installation, a defense installation or a nuclear installation, your civil defense volunteer and your district administration might prepare you in a different way to take cover. All of these will be part of the drill that is carried out from 7th of May. What the government is saying is do not panic. This drill does not mean we are going to war, but it does mean that we are preparing our civilians for any eventuality since they are not aware of any war-like situation since 1971.
All right. Many thanks, Arunima, for joining us. As Arunima was pointing out, not to create panic, but to be prepared for any eventuality. Santhya joins us now from outside Mumbai's Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj terminus. Santhya, take us through what we can expect in Mumbai tomorrow. What kind of planning is being put in place?
So, Shireen, as you mentioned, we are standing outside Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminal in Mumbai. It's a key location and one of the locations which was targeted during 26/11 attack. From 1993 bomb blast to 26/11 terror attack, Mumbai has faced multiple terror attacks over the years. That's why there'll be special focus on the city. Mumbai is a city which anyway by default remains on high alert, will witness special readiness by the forces. Maharashtra Civil Defense Department has claimed that all the agencies, including Civil Defense, is prepared to face any situation, any scenario. Tomorrow, if we talk about Mumbai, strategic locations will be focused on by the agencies, civil defense agencies, fire department agencies. Of course, Mumbai police will be a huge part of it. Other than Mumbai, there will be 10 districts in, other than Mumbai, there will be 9 more locations in Maharashtra where mock drill will take place. Shireen, over 10,000 people are likely to participate in these mock drills. Civil Defense has said that all the air sirens have been activated and all these citizens will be educated and informed on how to behave, what to do and what not to do in a war-like situation or a terror attack like situation. The idea here is to ensure that everybody is ready and prepared and not to create any kind of panic. Coastal areas in Maharashtra will witness special focus. We all remember how the coastal area sea was used during 26/11, so coastal areas will witness special focus. Other than that, whether it's the railway station part of mock drill, your metro stations, your bus stations, your schools and colleges, there also targeted mock drills will take place. All the air sirens have been activated. Coastal belt, southern Konkan and North Konkan, both these regions will be focused on by the agencies. And tomorrow, along with 200, across nation, 244 districts will witness mock drills and 10 districts of Maharashtra will be a part of that list. Shireen.
Santya, many thanks for joining us. So that is the situation in Mumbai. Back to the markets. Ather Energy made a debut on Dalal Street today. Shares listed at a premium of 2% over its IPO price, but then fell by about 6% later. The company CEO Tarun Mehta told CNBC TV18 he remains bullish on the company's near-term growth prospects.
We are extremely bullish about the near-term growth because of distribution, because of how Rista, a new family scooter, is landing in the market, and generally how well the India premiumization story is really taking off, where Ather really plays in the center of it. Overall, I think both margins and volume and market share, all three should trend really well this year. I am personally definitely expecting an even better trajectory than what we saw in FY25.
Well, that's Ather Energy. Now, shares of Housing Development Corporation slipped in trade today. This comes after the company's board approved raising 2,190 crore rupees. The base issue size of the fundraise is 500 crores and the remaining amount includes a green shoe option of 1,690 crore rupees. Earnings, Polycab reported strong numbers in Q4, beating street estimates on all fronts. Net profit up 33%, revenue jumped 25% on an annual basis. Margins expanded by 110 basis points from last year to 14.7%. And staying with earnings, Bank of Baroda reporting a weak set of numbers for Q4. The bank's net interest income dropped over 6% on an annual basis. The bank's net interest margin slipped to a 14-quarter low to 2.86%. Asset quality narrowed marginally on a sequential basis. Union Bank of India is facing the heat for spending 7 crore rupees to buy a book authored by KV Subramanian, the former executive director at the IMF. The government terminated Subramanian's services at the IMF 6 months before his tenure was supposed to end. Now, the All India Bank employees has called for a probe into Union Bank, citing wasteful expenditure. Ritu joins us now with more. Ritu, what does this mean for the bank now?
Well, Shireen, no good for the bank. And as you said, Union Bank is facing heat for spending a staggering 7.25 crores on buying nearly 2 lakh copies of former Chief Economic Advisor Krishnamurthy Subramanian's book, India at 100, even before the book had hit the shelves in August last year. Now, this has raised eyebrows, especially in light of the government prematurely terminating his term as the executive director at the IMF recently, with reports even suggesting some alleged impropriety, including the promotion of this very book as a potential reason for his abrupt departure. Now, an internal memo from Union Bank of India, which we have accessed, shows that the bulk order was placed in June or July of last year, with the bank buying nearly 2 lakh copies of this book. And this memo cited, and I quote, the desire of the top management as the reason for the purchase calling the book invaluable for anyone interested in the rise of India's economy, and stated the bank wished to distribute copies of this book to its customers and to corporates, supposedly to tap into future business opportunities. And it gets even more bizarre because the bank said it also intended to widely distribute these books to schools, colleges, libraries across the country to showcase India's potential as an economic leader. The advance payments, though, for this book were made through this, vague category labeled miscellaneous under the bank's revenue budget. Now, our sources indicate some of the senior bank management did raise concerns over this internally in the bank's December board meeting, following which Union Bank brought in KPMG to examine the matter. But so far, the only visible action appears to be the suspension of a general manager who merely oversaw the support services department. In the meanwhile, All India Bank Employees Association has also now called for an official investigation into this issue, branding that spending as wasteful expenditure and questioning the benefits Union Bank achieved by spending crores of rupees to buy a book.
All right, Ritu, many thanks for joining us. Now, electronic giant LG will set up a manufacturing plant in Sri City in Andhra Pradesh with an investment of 5,000 crore rupees. According to Money Control, the facility will manufacture refrigerators, air conditioners and washing machines. It will also produce components like compressors, motor compressor and a heat exchanger manufacturing facility. Production is expected to begin by December 2026 and the plant is expected to create nearly 1,500 direct jobs and 10,000 indirect jobs. We will head into a break, but up next, 21 sitting Supreme Court judges disclose their assets to the public for the very first time. That and more when we return. In international news, Israeli forces have stepped up their offensive in Gaza. At least 54 people were killed in the enclave yesterday. Israeli forces have also attacked parts of Yemen, Lebanon and Syria. Prime Minister Netanyahu said that more than 2 million people in Gaza will be moved into a new ground offensive after Israel's total blockade completes 65 days. The Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry has said that hospitals are just 48 hours from collapsing and lives of thousands are at risk. From one war-torn region to another, Russian officials have said that Ukrainian forces launched drones at Moscow for the second night in a row, forcing the closure of 3 major airports in the capital. Officials claim that 19 drones approached Moscow and its debris post-interception fell on a key highway. Ukrainian forces also attacked a power substation in Russia's western Kursk region, injuring 2 people and destroying 2 transformers. Ukrainian commander-in-chief said that the Kursk offensive had achieved most of its goals. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered 20% cut in senior ranks of the military. He's also ordered a 10% reduction in the number of general and flag officers. According to the U.S. Department of Defense data, the U.S. military had 38 4-star generals or admirals as of the 31st of March 2025. American food delivery platform DoorDash will acquire British rival Deliveroo for nearly $4 billion. DoorDash will acquire a stake in the company at 180 pence per share. That marks a 44% premium to Deliveroo's previous closing price. This will boost DoorDash's international expansion plans. Now, back home, 21 sitting Supreme Court judges have disclosed their assets to the public for the first time. These include Chief Justice Khanna and Chief Justice Designate Gavai. Ashmit standing by with the details. Ashmit, this is pretty historic. Take us through the asset declaration by the judges and the significance of this move.
Well, let's begin with the significance. Quite important, this landmark judgment coming at a time that there was increased scrutiny and outcry against judicial appointments on 2 counts. One, of course, the Justice Verma incident of cash being found in gunny bags at the residence, his Delhi residence. The other, of course, is questions being raised by the executive over the judiciary crossing the Lakshman Rekha and then dictating terms to the legislature and the executives. On both these counts, the mantra that the CJI, Justice Khanna, appears to be going with is that sunlight is the best disinfectant. Let's disclose all, let's share those details. Now, as a result of that, for the very first time, we have as many as 21 of sitting 33 judges disclosing their assets and investments as a part of the Supreme Court website. There was a Supreme Court website release as well, which the press release said that there'll be, in fact, more disclosures going ahead as the judges bring on board their data about their assets. Now, what's important is that as many as all 5 judges, top 5 judges of the Supreme Court, including the CJI, as well as the CJI designate, have revealed their data. As far as Justice Khanna is concerned, he's revealed 2 houses, investments of 3.38 crore rupees, and one Maruti Swift. As far as Justice CJI designate Justice Gawai, well, he's mentioned that he has as many as 3 houses, 2 in Maharashtra, 1 in Delhi, 3 land parcels, all of them in Maharashtra, investments of about 1.15 crore rupees. Justice KV Vishwanath, a distinguished lawyer till very recently, was elevated in 2023, has come across as the most affluent of the judges. He's come in with investments of 120 crore rupees, has 4 houses and paid as much as 91 crore rupees in taxes in 15 years, ending with FY25. That's not all. There were also questions that the Supreme Court has tried to answer in terms of how judges are appointed. Very detailed procedures have been listed out on the Supreme Court website, disclosing the number of judges that have been recommended by the collegium, the parameters on which they're assessed, including the parameters of how many pro-government or pro-tax department judgments have been authored by a particular judge. All these parameters listed out in the hope that as Justice Khanna gets ready to leave, he's retiring shortly in this month itself, as he gets ready to leave, perhaps this exercise and disclosure will restore some confidence back in the judiciary, back in the tallest judges of the country.
All right, Ashmit, appreciate you joining us. That's the big story there coming in from the Supreme Court. And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. The news will continue right here on CNBC TV18. For now, from all of us, thanks very much for watching.